Hello, welcome to Mandy's Not So Small Talk, and I'm your host, Mandy. Hey, when you hear the name Ivan Pavlov, what comes to mind? Most people think of dogs, bells, salivation, and while that's true, there's so much more to Pavlov's work, and it's deeply relevant to understanding trauma and even our relationships today. Okay, so it's important to note that Pavlov actually wasn't a psychologist. He was a physiologist, primarily focused on studying the mechanics of the body. However, his groundbreaking research on conditioned responses in the nervous system inadvertently brought tremendous awareness to the field of psychology. So in today's episode, we're diving into Pavlov's discoveries, his unexpected research into trauma, and how these findings actually apply to modern relationships, especially the dynamics of boom, 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 manipulation and trauma bonding. So buckle up, because this might change the way that you see yourself and others. Okay, let's start with the basics. Pavlov is the most famous for his classical conditioning experiment. He discovered that if you pardon me. He discovered that if you consistently pair a neutral stimulus, a bell, ding 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 ding, with food, dogs begin to salivate at the sound of the bell, even when no food is present. So what does that mean? So Pavlov found that behaviors could be conditioned. Stimuli that originally had no significance could actually take on meaning if paired with something that triggered a natural response. So this foundational concept opened the door to understanding how humans and animals develop patterns of behavior even outside of their conscious awareness. But Pavlov didn't stop there. A tragedy in his lab led him to explore something more profound: trauma and its impact on the nervous system. In 1924, Pavlov's lab in Leningrad was hit by a flood, and his research dogs were trapped in their cages as the water levels rose. While the cages were eventually opened, the dogs didn't even escape, even when they actually had the opportunity to. Why? So Pavlov realized that the trauma of being immobilized during the flood had actually rewired the dog's nervous system. So the dogs had been conditioned to associate their environment with inescapable danger. So their bodies were actually programmed to run and escape as a natural survival response, but the cages had physically prevented them from doing so. This immobilization created what Pavlov described as a state of inescapable shock. So the dog's nervous systems they entered into chaos, just torn between two conflicting impulses: the drive to flee and the inability to act. And so this clash caused a breakdown in their internal equilibrium, leaving them frozen, even after the danger had passed. So when Pavlov observed the dogs post-flood, he noticed profound changes: increased or decreased heart rates in response to just minor stresses, full-blown startle reactions to the smallest little changes in their environments, and signs of nervous system instability. So the dogs became unpredictable, erratic, and just easily overwhelmed. And Pavlov realized that trauma leaves a lasting imprint on the nervous system, altering behavior in ways that just go far beyond the actual original event. This phenomenon is known as learned helplessness, and it occurs when someone experiences stressors that they can't escape or control, eventually leading them to just stop trying, even when opportunities to change their situation arise. So think about it. The dogs were conditioned not to leave their cages because they learned that trying was futile. So the aftermath of the flood mirrored this behavior. Even when the doors were open, their trauma response just kept them immobilized. So learned helplessness isn't just an animal phenomenon, it affects humans too. For example, a child who is constantly put down by a parent or a teacher may just stop trying to excel, believing that nothing they do will ever be good enough. A person in an abusive relationship may feel trapped by conflicting impulses. So the desire to maintain the connection and the need to escape the pain and betrayal. You see, they're both conflicting. Even workplace burnout can reflect learned helplessness. So where repeated failures or stressors make someone just give up on improving their situation. So this is why understanding trauma responses is crucial, not just for healing ourselves, but like for navigating relationships with compassion and awareness. All right, so now let's shift gears to how this applies to relationships, okay? Some people, whether knowingly or unknowingly, manipulate others by keeping their nervous systems dysregulated. So this creates a cycle of stress and relief, leading to something called trauma bonding. So here's how that works. So one, there could be intermittent reinforcement. So they alternate between love and affection and withdrawal or criticism, keeping you on edge like Pavlov's bell. You become conditioned to chase their validation. Or two, gaslighting. By making you question your reality, they destabilize your sense of self and safety. Or three, hot and cold behavior. So their unpredictability keeps your nervous system in survival mode, constantly anticipating the next emotional flood. And these dynamics mimic the same chaos that Pavlov observed in his dogs. When your nervous system is trapped in cycles of stress and relief, you can lose sight of your power and agency. Now, two people can be unknowingly doing nervous system dysregulation with each other. And that's why communication is really important. And self-awareness first, because how can you communicate something you're not aware of in your own self? So first step is to become aware of what's going on within yourself. And the second step is to have the courage to express that to the other person. So here's the good news. While trauma and manipulation can leave lasting imprints, healing is possible, but it requires awareness and effort from both individuals in a relationship. So what if instead of using these tactics to maintain control, we actually focus on creating environments where both partners feel safe and supported? So this starts with regulating our own nervous systems and approaching relationships with curiosity instead of blame. So here are 3 steps to begin. Self-regulation. So learn to identify and manage your triggers through practices like mindfulness, breathing exercises, or therapy. And know that in a relationship, the purpose of a relationship is to actually get to know yourself more. And you will be triggered because you will be uncovering unconscious parts of you that you didn't even know that needed healing. And you may be in the moment triggered. And that's why it's important to be able to have space, forgiveness, and compassion for each other, as you know, each of you might come up against triggers that you maybe didn't even know that you had. And when this happens, it's important not to blame the other person, but like to get curious. And you do kind of need to work with each other in order to, you know, identify and manage that. So if you can both do it with curiosity and through love instead of like feeling attacked and blamed, that's going to make a whole world of a difference. So that brings to safe communication. You need to build trust by being consistent, by being honest, and being empathetic. Communication is required and needed. And 3, you need to face discomfort together. Instead of running or blaming when conflict arises, ask, what is this teaching us? And leaning into the discomfort creates the opportunity for growth and deeper connection. True intimacy requires two willing participants. It's not about playing games or manipulating each other's nervous systems. It's about co-creating a space where both people can heal, learn, and grow. So Pavlov's research may have started with physiology, but it opened the door to understanding trauma, behavior, and the human experience. And his work reminds us that trauma isn't just about what happens to us, it's about how our bodies and minds respond. So if you experience cycles of stress or manipulation in a relationship, know that healing it is possible. Recognize the patterns, regulate your nervous system, and choose connections that actually honor your worth and well-being, and that want to get curious about you just as much as you want to be curious about them. It takes reciprocity. So let's stop using dark psychology to control and hurt each other. And instead, let's build relationships that are actually resilient, compassionate, and rooted in genuine curiosity. Because when we're willing to do the work, we can create bonds that just go far deeper than our egos. So thank you for watching. Hit that like or subscribe button. And what are your thoughts on Pavlov and trauma and relationships? Just drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. And you know what? I'll see you in the next episode, or you'll see me.